Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and the Washington Commanders just cut their 2022 second-round pick defensive tackle. But in his place, the Washington Commanders also will get Jonathan Allen back. He returns for this upcoming game against the Atlanta Falcons tomorrow night. We got to dive into how terrible Rivera was as a draft pick, evaluator, all of that type of stuff, talent evaluator, and of course we got to dive into what Jonathan Allen returning means for this defense. And of course this video is sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And before we get into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting me, even though the couple of days that I was away and I was super busy for Christmas and everything like that, y'all was still supporting the other videos that I did, so really appreciate that. And of course, make sure you pull up because I will be live streaming, doing play-by-play and breaking down everything for this upcoming game against the Atlanta Falcons tomorrow night. Y'all know I hate them sorry little Falcons more than any other team in the NFL, so I cannot wait to stomp on them boys. So make sure y'all pull up for that live stream. Without further ado, let's go and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. Alright, so I first saw it tweeted / reported by Ian Rappaport on Twitter. He said the Commanders are waiving defensive lineman Phidarian Mathis, sources say, putting the former second rounder onto waivers for somebody else to claim. And then he ended it by saying a potential ad for a playoff team looking for depth up front. Mathis could be claimed. I'm not understanding that one, because if he couldn't crack playing time on this defensive interior right that we have right now, where we just brought in Sheldon Day and Carl Davis off the street to play over him. Phidarian Mathis has been a healthy scratch for the past couple of weeks. No injuries at all. 100% ready to go. Has not played the last couple of weeks because this coaching staff feels like he's that bad. I don't see why any other coaching staff around the NFL would want to get him. It's not like we just have this super deep, crazy interior defensive lineman group right now. We traded away John Ridgeway. Jonathan Allen's been hurt, and Phidarian Mathis still couldn't find a way to play under those conditions. So I don't see what other team in the NFL is like, yeah, Phidarian Mathis is probably could be the solution for us taking it to the next level and becoming Super Bowl contenders. Even as depth, I don't really see it. Again, Jonathan Allen hurt. John Ridgeway traded. Carl Davis and Sheldon Day brought off of the couch to play for us over him. I just don't see where there's any vision. And it's crazy because I like some of the flashes I saw from him this season. He was definitely more impactful this season than he had ever been by far in previous seasons since we drafted him in 2022. But it still just clearly wasn't enough for this coaching staff, and Pro Football Focus agrees as well. We're going to dive into that later. But this does create a roster spot to eventually activate Jonathan Allen. We're going to talk about Jonathan Allen in the second half of this video, but we cut Phidarian Mathis to make room for Jonathan Allen, who's returning against the Atlanta Falcons, which goes, I mean, that does mean technically, even though Phidarian Mathis has been a healthy scratch for the past couple of weeks, this coaching staff clearly doesn't like him. They didn't just cut him for no reason. They literally cut him because Jonathan Allen is now ready to play, finally, after hurting himself week 6 against the Baltimore Ravens, after which should have, I mean, that drive should have never even gotten to that point because of the phantom made-up call that the refs had on Benjamin St-Juste for a pass interference where we stopped them on 3rd and 10. The drive continued. Then Jonathan Allen got hurt. I'm going to keep bringing that up because I really want to get it through people's heads how much refs can really affect not only games but seasons with stupid calls. I don't like blaming them for everything, but Jonathan Allen's injury would have never happened if the refs didn't sell us. But either way, my point is, Phidarian Mathis wasn't just so terrible that they just cut him for absolutely no reason. They felt like at the very least he could be on the 53-man roster, not even on the practice squad, the 53-man roster, and then he just won't be active on game day to actually play in games. If they really hated him, like really hated him, if they just felt like he was completely useless, he would have been on the practice squad or even just not on the roster in general well before Jonathan Allen was ready. So I do want to make sure people do know we cut Phidarian Mathis to make room for Jonathan Allen. We did not just cut him out of absolutely nowhere. Now again, Phidarian Mathis has not been very good at all, and this coaching staff was more than happy to just go ahead and make space for Jonathan Allen and cut Phidarian Mathis without thinking twice about it. But again, it's not like they just cut him out of absolutely nowhere for no reason. And I also want to point out the fact that I said, just last week that he was definitely going to be gone in the offseason. And I guess they just figured out, well, why not just go ahead and release him now, especially now that we needed a roster spot for Jonathan Allen. But I've been telling y'all for the last couple of weeks, hey, Phidarian Mathis is not going to be on this team in 2025. They figured, hey, we might as well get ahead and get rid of him in 2024 before we go to these playoffs. And now I feel like it's the perfect time to talk about Ron Rivera for a little minute. We're not going to stay on Ron Rivera too long, but I have some crazy stats to bring up as far as his draft, pick evaluation, his talent evaluation issues. It's ridiculous. First of all, Phidarian Mathis alone, we'll just start with him. He has a 32.3 Pro Football Focus grade. Now, of course, we don't completely agree with Pro Football Focus. Most of the time, I actually disagree with them more than I actually agree with them. More times than not, I go against their grading and whatever they have going on. But still, they felt like he had a 32.3 overall grade this season when he did play. That's ranked 212th out of 217 defensive tackles that have played enough snaps to receive grades from Pro Football Focus, which means that they felt like Phidarian Mathis was only better than 5 defensive tackles out of the entire NFL that has played enough snaps. Out of 217, ranked 212. But when it comes to pass rush grade, they felt like he was 151st out of 217 defensive tackles, so that's slightly better, but still not good at all. And then run defense wise, they felt like he was 214th out of 217 defensive tackles with a 29 grade, which means that they felt like he was only better than 3 other defensive tackles in the NFL when it comes to stopping the run. And when you're a big zero tech nose tackle type of guy, you're supposed to be a double team eater. If anything, the only thing you should be at least good at, consistent, or at the very least average at, is stopping the run. Pass rush wise, that's pretty remarkable for a nose tackle to even be 151st. That's still not good at all, because there have been plenty of good pass rushing nose tackles in the NFL, but he's definitely not one of them. But at least he had a 55.7 grade there. But it's absolutely shameful to be terrible at run defense as a nose tackle. I mean, literally, why are you even on the field at that point? That's crazy. And then when it comes to solo tackles, he only had 8 this season. That ranks 121st, but he did have 7 stops, which ranks 118th out of defensive tackles. 0 sacks, of course, so he's on like a super way tie, not a 4-way, 5-way, but a super way tie at 135th in the NFL out of all interior defensive linemen. But he had 7 hurries, which was 87th out of defensive tackles. He had 0 hits, big way tie for 134th in the NFL. He had 7 pressures, which had him at 114th out of all the interior defensive linemen. And then batted down passes, just because he got 1 batted down pass, he has a big way tie, 29th in the NFL out of interior defensive linemen. So at least he was relatively decent at one thing just by getting at least that 1 batted down pass. And then also just overall season wise, they felt like 2022, even though he only played 3 snaps the entire season, that was the highest grade they ever gave him, with a 64.2 before he ended up getting hurt. And remember, he was out for season. Then in 2023 last season, he only played 202 snaps because he got hurt that season as well. He had a 42.7 Pro Football Focus grade, so going down. And then this year went down even further with an overall grade of 32.3, playing the most snaps he's ever played in his career in a season with 257, even after being a healthy scratch for a couple of weeks. Now we got to talk about Ron Rivera, because shouts out the Gridiron Gang. They do a lot of draft analysis and things like that. They bring up a great point. They say Phidarian Mathis was a prime example of scouting the helmet, not the player. Oh, he's an Alabama defensive lineman when Alabama was still a stout defense, one of the better defense in all of college football, arguably the best defense in college football outside of my Georgia Bulldogs for the past few years, especially 2021, 2022. But we're not going to get into that. Ron Rivera and those guys literally did scout the helmet. They were like, oh, defensive tackle from Alabama, there must be something there, but they just completely ignored the actual player, because according to Gridiron Gang, Mathis was their 159th ranked prospect and was somehow drafted 47th in the draft by Ron Rivera. And I remember, I feel like most of us, if not all of us, felt like Phidarian Mathis, at best case scenario, was a reach in the second round. Even if you like Phidarian Mathis, getting him in the second round was absolutely insane. They also said the red flags that were there. Pass rush win rate on true pass sets of negative less than 8% his final 2 years at Alabama, which was 15th percentile. And then he also had an incomplete athletic profile because I believe he wasn't able to test the combine or whatever or anything like that. So the Commanders completely just went on a whim, just completely jumped off the cliff for a defensive tackle that played at Alabama. They felt like, oh, Deron Payne's good, Jonathan Allen's good, other Alabama defensive linemen that have gone to other teams have been good. Why wouldn't Phidarian Mathis be good? If Nick Saban recruited him and played him in games, Ron Rivera just assumed, okay, Nick Saban did all of the work. We don't have to do any. We're just going to go ahead and draft them in the second round. If Nick Saban liked them, we should too. And I think that was literally the extent of the analysis on Phidarian Mathis. You can't convince me otherwise at all. So now if you look on the screen right now, this is pretty much a graveyard here. With Phidarian Mathis being waived today, shouts out to Jay Daniels MVP for bringing this up. Only 10 players that Ron Rivera drafted from the 4 drafts that he had 4 seasons here are Samuel Cosmi, who's your starting right guard right now. Benjamin St-Juste, I mean, we can't wait to get rid of him at corner, but we need him right now with Marshawn Lattimore that's going to be out against the Falcons. Brian Robinson, love him, but the 2 fumbles within 6 carries against the Eagles was not good, but I still like him, but we still need to go and get him a counterpart. And even as much as I love Brian Robinson, he should be the Robin to somebody else's Batman. He should be the David Montgomery to a Jahmyr Gibbs. So we need to go find our version of Jahmyr Gibbs, please. Still like him though. Quan Martin, you're starting strong safety. Derek Forrest, he looked good that one season, but it hasn't necessarily looked that good since. Chris Paul, healthy scratch at interior offensive lineman, and I like Chris Paul, but this coaching staff doesn't really like him much at all. He's been a healthy scratch, so even if there were injuries, they still wouldn't play him. And as bad as Michael Dieter was at center against the Saints, he still played over Chris Paul after Tyler Biadasz got hurt. Then you have Percy Butler, who is a pretty solid contributor, but not necessarily a full-blown starter. De'Ami Brown is taking this long, but he's finally starting to find his groove, and Cliff Kingsbury's finding a way to utilize him correctly. So you can argue De'Ami Brown, Samuel Cosmi, Quan Martin, so far the names I've mentioned are probably the most impactful guys, especially looking forward as to who is going to be on this roster 2025 and beyond. And then you also have John Bates, who's a solid blocking tight end, but doesn't give you much in the passing game. The last time we tried to throw him the ball a few weeks ago, he fumbled it, and it really felt like he sold us the game there. And then you also have Chris Rodriguez, who whenever he finally does play, it seems like he makes an impact, but this coaching staff doesn't like him much at all either. Those are 10 players that are still left from all of those draft picks that Ron Rivera has had over the last 4 years. It's absolutely insane. And for reference, just to let you know, Ron Rivera drafted 33 players in his 4-year tenure here, and 64% of those picks are no longer on the team, just to let you know. That is absolutely incredible. Shouts out to Ben Standig for pointing this out. Of the 10 that are here, only 3 are starters, 3 are part of like high rotation, and that's really it. And so if we break it down, 2020, 0 of 8 are still here. That's insane. 2021, 5 of 10, and only 5 are active. 2022, 4 of 8, and only 3 are active. In 2023, 3 of 7, only 2 are active. How are only 3 of your 7 draft picks from 2023 on a 2024 Commanders roster right now? That's the most shameful part out of all of it. I mean, it's amazing that somehow the 2021 draft has the most contributors with 5 left, with 2022 only having 4 and 2023 only having 3 still on the roster. Also, Ben Standig pointed out the fact that, you know, just draft picks 2021 through 2023 alone, it's crazy that some of the most notable ones are the ones that have been traded and released. 2021, Jamin Davis, first round pick, released. Shaka Toney, released. Dax Milne, released, both 7th round picks. 2022, Jahan Dotson, first round pick, traded. Phidarian Mathis, 2nd round pick, cut. Sam Howell, 5th round pick, traded. And then Holmes, 7th round pick, cut. And then 2023, Manuel Forbes, a 1st round pick, cut. Ricky Strongberg, 3rd round pick, cut. And then Braden Daniels, 4th round pick, cut. And then KJ Henry, 5th round pick, and I thought he looked pretty good in the preseason, but also cut. I mean, godly. Shouts out to George Carmi for also pointing this out. With the release of Phidarian Mathis, the Commanders only have 3 players remaining from the 2022 class. And to remind you also, this list that you're seeing right now with the scratch marks through people's names, that is provided by George Carmi. I should have said that a while while ago before I even showed it to y'all. That's my fault, but this is presented by George Carmi, and also what I'm telling you right now is through George Carmi. He said this continues an overhaul of the roster with 4 straight years of subpar draft selections. Ironically, the 2021 classes contributed the most. That is absolutely insane. The 2021 classes contributed more than both the 2022 class and the 2023 class. Also, shouts out to Al Galdi for this one. He said off the Commanders, cutting Fedarian Mathis. Washington in the 2007 through 2022 NFL drafts made 12 second-round picks. Just to let you know, that's including Jay Gruden, Ron Rivera, and a few other head coaches as well. We've only re-signed 2 of them, Fred Davis and Samuel Cosmi. And only Samuel Cosmi got a multi-year re-signed deal. Quan Martin, Johnny Newton, Mike Sainristil, and Ben Sinnott, hopefully they'll come through for us and save us, and it looks like they will, just looking long term. But Lord have mercy, second round picks have been a curse for us all the way back since 2007. That is absolutely insane. Also, shouts out to my boy Marshall, because he brings up a great point. He said having a realistic shot at 12-5 in our first season under this new regime while still deconstructing the roster is crazy work. This is absolutely insane. We're still trying to purge this roster of the Ron Rivera stench, the Dan Snyder stench. All the while, we have a chance to go 12-5 this season. That is absolutely insane. These guys are doing double the work that other NFL teams are doing right now. It's absolutely insane. And Adam Peters and these guys deserve a big round of applause for that. Which takes me to the point that I keep making for the last few weeks. This roster is currently the worst that it's going to be for a very long time. And it's already really good. It's already way ahead of schedule. But it's only up from here. Imagine Adam Peters with even more off seasons. I mean, he did all of this in just one off season. And also don't forget that Adam Schefter already reported the NFL veterans, NFL starters around the NFL want to come to the Commanders. They wanted to go to the Commanders during the trade deadline. Now imagine guys when like DJ Reed, when we get to March of the offseason free agency period, he could just leave for free. You don't even have to trade for him. He could just go and sign with the Commanders if we wanted him to. So buckle up for the 2025 free agency. But I am getting ahead of myself right now, which takes me now, before we move on to the second half of this video, to talk about the addition of Jonathan Allen. We just talked about the subtraction of Fedarian Mathis, but before we get to the addition of Jonathan Allen, y'all already know, man, this show is provided by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino, and if you're looking for a new sportsbook, it should be BetUS for sure, man. First of all, they have the fastest payouts in the industry, and I know y'all want y'all money fast. I know I do, so I know y'all are with me there. And right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's YOUTUBE150. And they also have a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process as well. Like, come on, man, why not? And now let's dive into some bets that we can get into directly through their website. I thought this was an interesting one, because when you're taking a look at the money lines right now for the games that are going to be closest out of just the Sunday games alone, December 29th, not the Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday games that are going on today, Monday night. We're talking about Sunday alone. Sunday 1 p.m. through the 8 p.m. games. That's it. Which game will end up having the closest score? Which game between the two opponents, their scores will be the closest? Right now, we're 4th in odds from the Falcons versus Commanders game, only behind the Titans versus Jaguars, Packers versus Vikings, and Raiders versus Saints. Now, this is a risky bet, I know, but it has plus 600 odds for a reason. I can see that, but at the same time, man, with all of the injuries that the Commanders have, even though we're assumed favorites going into this game, and then the Falcons are also a little banged up, this game may end up being closer than what Commanders fans hope. I still feel like we should win the game, but this game may end up a little bit closer than we expect. So if you believe this upcoming game between the Commanders and the Falcons will end up being the closest scoring game out of any game this Sunday, if you put $100 down on that, you could end up winning $600 in return by Sunday night. Now, of course, y'all already know I'm gonna scream at y'all to please gamble responsibly. Y'all already know, please make sure you gamble responsibly. But hey, man, with the injuries in this game, there may be something to this one, and BetUS already feels like we have the 4th highest odds of that potentially happening. Maybe there's something there. But before we get back to this video and start talking about Jonathan Allen, again, right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's YOUTUBE150. And again, please make sure you gamble responsibly. Now let's get back to the video. Let's get it. Now we got to talk about Jonathan Allen and others, because it's not just Jonathan Allen who's been stepping up big time on this defensive line this year. Well, in place of Jonathan Allen especially, because, I mean, even though Phidarian Mathis has been cut, and then that makes room for Jonathan Allen, we still have some other guys on this roster, interior defensive line wise, that will have an impact on our chances of winning playoff games this year. So first of all, we got to start with the fact that defensive tackle Jonathan Allen has officially been added and activated from the injured reserve list. He is now officially on the 53-man roster for the first time since that week 6 game against the Baltimore Ravens. And that happened like right before I started recording this video. I already knew that it was going to happen, so I was already prepared to record this video and everything like that. But literally like 2 minutes, not even an entire 2 minutes before I hit record, they went ahead and announced that. So now I'm happy that I can officially report that. I was going to report it with 99% confidence at first. Now it's 100% because it's officially been done. Shouts out to my boy Eric Sully at Commanders Realm, because he brings up a good point. I mean, going with 30-year-old Sheldon Day, who's played well though, mind you, over Phidarian Mathis was telling. Allen returning all but cemented it as well. Their goal from day one has been to rid this team from as many Rivera guys as possible, and only a handful remain. Also, shouts out to my boy Disco. He said Johnny Newton and Sheldon Day have been holding it down, and with Jonathan Allen returning, we may have a nice rotation for these last 2 games and hopefully heading into the playoffs. I completely agree, because you do not sleep on not only Jonathan Allen, but this entire interior defensive line outside of Phidarian Mathis. Because right now, I mean, Johnny Newton is ranked 95th out of 126 interior defensive linemen, but I feel like he's been having a better season than that. I feel like when you really watch the tape, you see flashes. He may not necessarily be consistent, but he has flashes. He makes plays. I like Johnny Newton a lot. I feel like Pro Football Focus is being too harsh on him by giving him a 49.5 overall grade, but they felt like his pass rush grade is a 61.6, which is not bad at all. And again, I believe in him. But then you also have Jonathan Allen, who's missed the past few weeks. They have him ranked 82nd out of 126 defensive linemen. But you also have Daron Payne, who not living up to expectations at all, ranked 71st out of 126 defensive linemen. But then you have Sheldon Day, who has actually played 223 snaps. He's almost surpassed Jonathan Allen, who's played 229 snaps before he got hurt. Now that Jonathan Allen's coming back, I don't think Sheldon Day has much of a chance to surpass him unless Jonathan Allen is on some type of pitch count, but I don't think so. I don't think he's going to be on any type of pitch count. But Sheldon Day, off of 223 defensive snaps this season, is ranked 45th out of 126 defensive linemen, interior defensive tackles out of the entire NFL. That is an entire 26 spots higher than Daron Payne, which is also 11 spots higher than Jonathan Allen, who is 13 spots above Johnny Newton. So right now, Pro Football Focus feels like Sheldon Day is our very best interior defensive lineman out of the entire team right now. But most importantly, ignore these Pro Football Focus grades, y'all. I know Jonathan Allen has yet to reach his 2022 Pro Bowl version of himself since the span of the 2023 season up to the point that he got hurt against the Ravens week 6 of this 2024 season. But he's still going to be a nice piece of the solution for us getting better at stopping the run on defense. He's going to contribute to that. And like I've said, and I've already explained in several videos these past couple of weeks, and like I even warned y'all the same day that we found out Jonathan Allen tore his pec and was going to be out for potentially the remainder of the season, immediately after that Ravens game, I told y'all, yeah, Johnny Newton is more explosive. He has a higher ceiling, and especially as far as getting past the offensive lineman and getting into the backfield and being disruptive behind the line of scrimmage. And that's great for pressuring and sacking the quarterback. But Jonathan Allen is probably our best defensive tackle that we have on roster at 2-gapping. And like I've already explained several times recently, when I say that, I mean just say a defensive tackle like Jonathan Allen or anybody, Daron Payne, Johnny Newton, whoever, is 1v1 versus an offensive lineman right now. And then you know the running back is choosing to run the ball. He has to choose between the left side of this defensive tackle or the right side of this defensive tackle. Jonathan Allen is the best, arguably, out of our entire defensive tackle group at standing up that offensive lineman and making sure the running back is wrong no matter which decision he makes to go this side or this side. Because if he chooses to go this way, Jonathan Allen can get rid of the offensive lineman that way and reach for the running back to stop him there. If he chooses to go this way, Jonathan Allen will move the offensive lineman that that way and make the play. You're engaging with the offensive lineman. You're keeping your head up to look into the backfield to see where the ball is going, most notably the ball carrying running back. Jonathan Allen is arguably the best at that specific thing out of any interior defensive tackle that we have on this team, and that plays a large role in stopping the run. So yeah, maybe he won't be his 2022 Jonathan Allen self when he comes back, but even first 5.5 weeks of 2024, Jonathan Allen can help us win games, and that's the most important part. Just as him being a part of the solution. He may not be the solution, but he may be one of the pieces of the solution. We could talk about his contract and how he's not living up to it, all of that, this type of stuff in the offseason, but for now, we need to keep stalling the start of our offseason as long as possible. We can talk about Jonathan Allen, his contract in the offseason, but I don't even want to get there anytime soon. Let's keep this season going, regular season and then postseason. And you never know. What if he does end up playing at a Pro Bowl level for us when he returns, or most importantly, just in time for the playoffs? I mean, mind you, him being able to two-gap like that will free up our linebackers behind him to make plays. We'll talk about that soon. I mean, I know it's not very likely at all that Jonathan Allen returns to the 2022 self, but that would be a game changer if he did. I mean, being able to consistently stop the run with just our defensive line alone and allowing our linebackers to free roam and rush the passer like Frankie Louvu really wants to do, or keeping Bobby Wagner clean so he can stop the run, or allowing our linebackers, because they're able to stop the run, just interior defensive linemen alone, that would allow our linebackers to help make up for some of the weaknesses that we have in coverage with the secondary. They can also contribute to some coverage help as well. I mean, that could be huge, man. That could be a domino effect of our defense getting better. And mind you, Pro Football Focus felt like 2020 Jonathan Allen was an 80.3 overall grade. 2021 Jonathan Allen was an 84.9 overall grade. And 2022 Jonathan Allen was still an 80.1. Right now, worst case scenario, if you take the worst of those 3 seasons, Jonathan Allen would be the 9th highest ranked defensive tackle in the entire NFL right now, only behind Cameron Hayward, Dexter Lawrence, Chris Jones, Leonard Williams, Poona Ford, Calais Campbell, DeForest Buckner, and Zach Seiler of the Miami Dolphins. He would be the 9th ranked defensive tackle if we could somehow get 2020 through 2022 version of Jonathan Allen. That would be a big boost for us, and I feel like Jonathan Allen deserves at least a little bit of grace for his early season slow start. 2022, I just feel like that was just a dysfunctional franchise, dysfunctional defense. I don't even necessarily exactly blame him for that. But 2023 wise, he did have a slow start. I'm not denying that, but maybe we need to show him just a little bit of grace, because everybody had a slow start to the season. Now, I'm not saying that was the only reason Jonathan Allen wasn't playing well in the first 6 weeks, but y'all gotta remember, everybody on our defense was struggling at first. Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu were literally useless in coverage and on screens. They were like, I was like, man, did we just completely throw away money on these two when it came to screen passes, especially week 1? Remember, Dante Fowler and Dorrance Armstrong weren't getting consistent pressure at all the first couple of weeks. Joe Witt Jr., he even had Mike Sanford still at slot corner and Noah Monogany at outside corner the first couple of weeks of the season. And I know it sounds crazy now, but back then, you got to remember that we drafted Mike Sanford still to be a great slot corner, specifically in this defense, because that's what he was in college for the last couple of years. And on top of that, he's only 5'10" and 183 pounds. So how are we supposed to know back then that he would be a really good outside corner, especially this soon? But my point is, nobody knew what they were doing at first. We had very little chemistry and rehearsal time, because in the preseason, we sat most of our starters. Most notably, a guy like Jonathan Allen, I don't think he played a single snap in the preseason. Joe Witt Jr. didn't even exactly know how to best utilize his own chess pieces, his own players to the best of their ability, and put them in the best situations to succeed at that point. So you never know. If by now, even if Jonathan Allen isn't his 2022 self, at least, maybe Joe Witt Jr. at least knows how to utilize Jonathan Allen in a better way to have him more impactful and disruptive for this defense. But the direct counter argument to that, I'm not going to lie, would be the point that even Daron Payne has been here the entire time, and he still hasn't gotten back to his 2022 self. So why would Jonathan Allen be able to do it? Well, I mean, and I get that, but from a blind optimism point of view, what if Daron Payne plays way better next to Jonathan Allen than he does without him? Maybe that's the reason why Daron Payne hasn't played well. And I know we don't necessarily trust Pro Football Focus to a T. Like I already said, we've already talked about it several times in this video. I don't necessarily trust Pro Football Focus, but I do feel like there's something there when Pro Football Focus felt like 2 of his best 3 games this season grading wise all happened in weeks where Jonathan Allen started and finished the entire games fully healthy. I mean, his single highest graded game all season was week 5 versus the Cleveland Browns with Jonathan Allen fully healthy, starting next to him. I mean, I feel like there's some chemistry there. And it's, to mind you, that was also the last fully healthy game that we got out of Jonathan Allen from start to finish. So maybe they just started to gain a rhythm. They started to gain some chemistry, gain some momentum, and by week 5, they finally figured it out. And then Jonathan Allen got hurt against the Ravens, and maybe Daron Payne just hasn't been able to bounce back without his Alabama counterpart right next to him. I know I'm reaching. I know I am, but you just never know. Just shooting from a blind optimism point of view, just food for thought there. And then now moving on before we get up out of here, the Washington Commanders also, on top of releasing Phidarian Mathis and adding Jonathan Allen to the official 53-man roster, they elevated cornerback Kevon Seymour with Marshall Lattimore hurt, and then also wide receiver my boy Bryson Tremaine at 6'4", 6'5" was activated from the practice squad as well. That means Kevon Seymour and Bryson Tremaine will now be on the official 53-man roster when we play the Atlanta Falcons tomorrow night. If they'll play at all or how much they'll play, I couldn't tell you right now, but that's interesting. I know I'm a big Bryson Tremaine fan. He was making a lot of plays this offseason during the offseason workouts, training camp, and things like that. So I'm really rooting for him. We'll see. But the only negative to that is if Bryson Tremaine is being activated up from the practice squad, and I know De'Ami Brown got hurt. We already lost Noah Brown and everything like that. But does that mean KJ Osborne is not ready to contribute yet? Is he really struggling that much to learn the offense or something like that? I don't know. Hopefully he plays against the Falcons. Hopefully he balls out against the Falcons. But the fact that they feel like they need Bryson Tremaine all of a sudden, I don't know. That doesn't bode well for KJ Osborne. And also, before we get up out of here, very last thing, the Commanders already announced that we'll be wearing the all burgundy uniforms. Burgundy helmet, jersey, pants, cleats, everything. All burgundy, head to toe, versus the Atlanta Falcons. Again, it's a home game, so make sure y'all pull up with y'all burgundy jerseys to the stadium, and let's make sure the Atlanta Falcons feel that Commanders home field advantage. Let's get some false starts. Let's get some delayed games, miscommunications, all of that type of stuff. Make sure y'all are making as much noise as possible when the Falcons offense is on the field, please. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, and still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. You made it this far in the video, man. I salute to you. Appreciate that big time. Make sure you leave a like on the way out, and of course let me know in the comment section how you feel about Phidarian Mathis and Ron Rivera's talent evaluation history with the Commanders. You can just go ahead and let out your emotions and rant in this comment section. Go ahead and scream at them if you feel like you need to. Also, let me know how you feel about this whole Jonathan Allen situation, and of course let me know if you agree or disagree with any of the points that I brought up, that hey, maybe Jonathan Allen will come back and be a bigger boost to this defense than maybe y'all think, and maybe even Daron Payne will benefit from it as well. Let me know if you think I'm reaching, all of that type of stuff. And of course, really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. And oh, before we go, how could I? Y'all gotta remember that this video was sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And of course, please make sure y'all gamble responsibly, man. If you don't do nothing else, I'm gonna catch y'all later. Appreciate y'all. I'm out.